For centuries, we've been told what is pure and what is sinful, what is allowed and what is forbidden. Somewhere along the way, we severed the human from the divine. We silenced intuition, shamed the sacred, and buried ancient wisdom. But here, we remember. Welcome to the Forbidden Fruit Podcast, an exploration of the mystical, the intuitive, the cosmic forces that weave our existence. This is a soulful sanctuary where we embrace the strange and unusual and use it as fuel to reclaim the magic, restore the sacred, and discover ultimate truth. Come and share your stories in a space where fierce hearts and fantastical gifts are not only welcomed, but needed. So take a bite. You were never meant to be forbidden. Welcome to the Forbidden Fruit Podcast. I'm your host, Jeanette St.Germain, and today we are joined once again by my amazing co-host, Catherine Kells. In today's episode, we explore the topics of frequency and ascension. We share what it feels like to access different vibrations of energy and offer a detailed framework of how the soul evolves through the vehicle of human experience. Let's talk about the ascension path and frequency and intention. That balance of surrender, letting go to be what is, and trusting the universe, trusting the process, and also claiming our sovereignty and choosing to be master creators in our lives, right? There's a balance of these two parts as we evolve our consciousness. So I think that ties into what we were sharing earlier about frequency, signing up for things that send us energy to help us evolve or send us peace or whatever the intention is. And then also looking at like, what is a boundary system when we're all beings of infinite consciousness? There are no boundaries in that place, right? But as human beings, we require discernment. We require healthy boundary systems in order to function as a human being. And when we're playing in those frequency fields, yay, we all want to go to source and get blissed out and just turn into a puddle of goo on the couch, right? That's the fun part. But then how do we pay taxes and do the dishes and take a shower?
Take care of kids.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about that. What do you think?
For me, there is a very clear balance because, like, if you think about what does it actually mean to get to that point of going back to source? And sure, you can go there at any moment, but in order for you to actually sit there and be comfortable and enjoy that peace and that oneness, you really have to face yourself first. You have to go through step by step, following what the path creator is giving you, this ascension path that is unique yet the same for everyone. It's very, very customized and tailored just for exactly wherever you're at when you start here to wherever you're going when you leave here. And those details are not the same for anyone else.
So
But
I'm
we're all going
curious.
in the same place. But the question is, wherever you're at when you start, what things do you need to work through? What things do you need to clear from yourself and to process to integrate those unprocessed feelings and emotions and how you relate to the world, how you relate to your experiences and your understanding of where that ultimate source is. And what does it mean to sit in that? Because if you just go from wherever you're at now, whatever number you pick, doesn't matter. And you just say, okay, well, take me to that 1,000, that source point. If you haven't done that work and you skipped ahead, it's going to feel really uncomfortable because in that moment, you're going to be faced with everything you haven't processed. And that's too much. It's the universe gives you, when you go through this process throughout your life, it gives you a spoonful at a time. And that's whatever's in that spoonful is whatever you're meant to process in that moment. They don't give you the whole cup because if you were to, eat a cup full of sugar and one's that wouldn't be good. That wouldn't feel very good. You'd be really uncomfortable. You'd probably throw up, and it's not good for your body. But if you were to take a spoonful of that at a time and allow it to work through you, and then when you're ready for the next one, then you do that. And the next one, and you slowly get to that point. Each one is better than the last. Each one you're clearing yet another layer, that onion metaphor. And that helps you to get there so that when you say, I want to sit in that source frequency for 5 minutes, instead of it feeling like the worst experience ever because all of your shadows come up for you, you actually can start to slowly enjoy it. And realizing that ultimate oneness and love means that everything that happened in the past is actually okay. But getting to that point isn't necessarily the most pleasant process. It isn't the most peaceful process because what you're doing is you're facing your shadows and you're facing who you've been and where you're going and all of, your role and you have to take responsibility for your interactions that you've had and how you've responded to certain things or reacted. And you have to get so clear with yourself that if you can't do all that first, it's not going to feel pleasant to sit in that source frequency. But as you move forward, that's where it starts to become that feeling of peace that you get, that feeling of ultimate surrender, that being one with everything. And then you start to realize, actually, this is really good. But until you get to that point, you haven't done the work, which nobody wants to do. Everyone wants to say, I just want the end because that's so much more fun. But if you don't do the work, then you can't be ready for it. And that's that whole process of raising your frequency, which means what nobody wants to hear is the answer is you have to look within yourself. I remember telling my husband, um, a number of years ago, we were talking about frequency and um, how you heal and how you ascend from whatever. And he kept saying, well, just how do you do it? Because he really likes to have, just the really quick one and done answers. He doesn't like me to tell the stories. Um, and I kept telling him, you just have to look within. He's like, no, 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 but really, how do you do it? Like, look within. And I said that a number of times, and he's just like, just stop talking. He wasn't ready at that point. It was really, really funny to see, but just to honor that was where he was at in that particular moment.
Hmm.
And it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that if you're not ready. But the answer is not the beautiful, like, oh, this is all peaceful. I'm here, I'm done. Like, no, you actually have to look at yourself. You have to look at who you are, where you've come from, and get so clear with yourself that you can get to that next step. And then you peel away that layer and then another layer. And you keep doing that until at one point you're like, I'm actually okay. That's when you're really ready to start playing with those frequencies of source. Because then you're realizing that there is so much more than just that sense of peace and presence.
So it sounds like you're describing the ascension process. Is
Hmm.
that okay? I was
Oh, yeah.
like, wasn't sure. That's what it sounds like. No, I love it. It's
And
interesting for
everyone's,
me. Yeah, go
sorry
ahead.
to interrupt you,
Yeah.
everyone's experience is totally unique. And there's nothing right or wrong about whatever it is. It just is because you scripted all this before you came here. So, whatever you personally need in your frequency, what your medicine is, and your gifts that you have for the world, you have to go through and clear that within yourself so that you can then be ready to serve others, which is that feeling of expansion and moving forward on the process. So, yeah, what I describe is just one way of doing it. There's a million
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I heard it multiple times as you were sharing this idea around we have to go within, we have to look at our stuff before we can access these frequencies or before we can access them from a more blissful place, right? And mine hasn't been like that at all. Mine's been very cyclical. My ascension or awakening. So my process of evolving consciousness has been very much following a spiral. It's like, for me, it's like every high has an equal and opposite low. And I've learned that for me, in order to evolve my consciousness and to explore the infinite possibility of me, myself, and I, expressing through an individualized consciousness, as well as experiencing the potential of the all, I have to be able to hold that balance point, like a neutral place of consciousness, so that I can go to those places where it's difficult and challenging and do shadow work and face the wounds or and the traumas and whatever is there. And then at the same time, I'm also able to go into those really high vibrational fields of source and pure creation and oneness where I cease to exist. And I'm able to do both of those things. And I know, I know I am not um, evolved or enlightened or whatever might be this great destination that a lot of people think when they think about, oh, we need to ascend, we need to raise our consciousness. And so for me, it's like, no, it's about honoring this wholeness. That is ascending consciousness. It's not about get to the next level, get to the next step. Oh, I checked that off my list. Now I can go to the next one. That's it. For me, that has not been my journey. And I love that because it means I'm never done. There is no finish line. It's always fun. It's always exciting. And I never know what's going to happen. And the more I just fall in love with the journey and this experience of being alive, it's like I call it the ceremony of life, right? And becoming a Jedi master with the mind thoughts. Because every single moment in my life, every interaction that I have with another person, every feeling that comes up in my body or in my emotions, that's an opportunity for me to experience what's there. And then, is there something else there that I'm not even aware of? Is there a theme? Is there a great teaching or a lesson? Or is it just something I get to experience? Maybe it's not a lesson at all, right? So, having this expanded perspective of what's possible, for me, that's been the key. If you want to feel source frequency, yeah, go within, it's inside of you. You don't have to leave the planet. You don't have to raise your frequency so high that you've left your body. Your consciousness has left your body. It's all already inside of you. That whole map of the divine, because you are that. But I found that I was going somewhere with that. I went somewhere else. My brain. Um,
Well, and it is interesting because, so I was saying the same thing, but in a different way.
yeah, I
You know,
love
I
that.
would, it's that process where if you take that spiral and you stretch it out, there is a linear line.
Totally.
However, it's
Mm-hmm.
that as you go around and you have these cycles, because everything is cyclical.
Yes.
As you go around and have these cycles, as you peel away a layer of the onion, you may feel on one level um, you clear out certain beliefs and certain thought processes and let go of certain stories. But then when you come back around and you're ready for the next layer of that, then you're feeling a slightly more fine-tuned, a slightly more sensitive, getting
Mm-hmm.
deeper and deeper to that core.
Yeah.
And that's that whole process of letting that go. And it's interesting how you were mentioning that back and forth, because so often people, like everyone's heard the idea of going two or one step forward, two steps back. And nobody wants the two steps back, but it's so required to have that balance. And I mean, I look at it and it's like, is it really two steps back? Or does it just feel so much more uncomfortable when you go back there that it feels like you're going two steps back? But what if it's you're just going back to where you were before?
Mm-hmm.
And then you take each time you're taking that step forward and back, but you're balancing like a Newton's cradle where you pull one side and then let it go, and that force of that energy goes to the other side and it pops it forward. So you get to experience that for a little while, and then it goes back and you get to experience that. But as you're going, you're also moving in that next dimensional layer of going through that spiral, going through to the next version of wherever you're going. And every time you do that back and forth, you get slightly closer to being in balance, because that is the key. You don't want it's beautiful how to have those really high. And yes, we all experience those really low. And that's okay. That's actually beautiful too. But it's getting back to once you see the two versions of that, you can see, okay, here I can sit in the middle and be okay with it. And that's coming back to that presence, coming back to that into yourself and to realize that both are okay. There is no right or wrong. It's just that moving forward in that balance.
Yes, totally. And I love it because I heard it. We were both saying the same thing, just in a different way. And I mean, that's why I love talking to you because we just have a different framework of how we see reality. And we both share it from other perspectives. And that's the metaphor, right? Of everything that we're doing. We're
Hmm.
all parts of creation, observing ourselves, observing each other, observing the creation that we are, creating creation. We're like little pieces of the stained glass window, looking at each other, blinking, not realizing that we're part of the same piece of art and that we can zoom in and zoom out and all these things. So cool. So it's interesting to think about this process of evolving consciousness and these labels that we use to define it. At least those of us in a spiritual sphere, I like to think of awakening, ascension, and then what makes up that process. So I would like to share my framework that I share with clients and that I kind of work with for my own life, and maybe some stories about what that looks like. And then I'd love to hear your framework and your perspective, a little more detailed. I love everything you've already shared. So, for example, um, awakening, from my understanding, is a moment, a flash in the pan, a catalyst, or it can be something that goes over an extended period of time. But an awakening is when one day, or over a period of many days, months, years, you wake up and you start feeling like there's something more. You look in the mirror and you maybe don't recognize the person staring back at you. You feel like all the things in your life that should be bringing you joy and purpose, fulfillment, just really aren't cutting it anymore. And you're not sure if they ever did. And you start questioning, who am I? What can I be? What can I create? And you start questioning, whose life is this? Have I created a life for myself? Or have I created a life based on what others have told me is good for me and right for me? And then you start questioning all those things, right? Existential crisis. What's the purpose of me? What's the purpose of life? Right? So you have this awakening that happens within your system. And sometimes it happens from some kind of crisis in your life or some kind of big change, like maybe a family member passes away, or there's a car accident, or you lose a job, or the end of a marriage, like anything that you would think of as like majorly life transforming that may or may not have been in your control, right? Something comes in and just smacks you upside the head, right? And starts to make you question your life. That to me is that awakening, right? And then the ascension is the process of asking those questions and seeking answers. And usually when people start in that place of like, huh, I'm more than just a meat suit walking around. There's something more than just this 3D world that I'm experiencing through my five senses. Huh, I'm having strange dreams and talking to my grandpa that passed away 20 years ago, and I've never even met him. Those kinds of things, right? So the ascension is that process of evolving your consciousness through asking questions, being curious, wondering what is here and is there more? And what's it all about? And then at the beginning of it, typically the framework, that the little spiral that I use to walk, typically you get really excited. You're like, oh my gosh, there's something more. This is exciting. Wow, I can learn about healing energies. I can learn about vibration and sound, and I can learn about how color can affect our moods. I can learn all the different things. Maybe I start learning about numerology or astrology or human design or family constellations or Reiki. Take your pick, right? But this is the phase of the experience process where we want to learn everything we possibly can. And we get excited and we start opening to our own intuitive abilities and we start wanting some help navigating it, right? So we seek outside ourselves for teachers, mentors, other students that are also seekers. And we start building people in our lives that don't look anything like the people that may have just left our lives or are getting ready to leave our lives and we don't even know it yet. Right? So we have the woohoo, the kumbaya moment. Um, in my work, I see it as usually the first 6 months when somebody discovers Radiant Soul Center and someone discovers working with me or coming with a friend to some of our groups and starts learning about things. I give it about 6 months before there's a shift. Like 6 months, they're like, oh my God, I'm coming to everything. This is amazing. This is so cool. I want to know it all. And then
And
that
then the honeymoon wears off.
yeah, that 6 month mark happens. And then all of a sudden, there's some other kind of crisis moment. And it forces them to go within. And then they start questioning everything that they just were learning, everything that they just fell in love with. And they start questioning, is this all a bunch of woo-woo? Is this real? Is this person really helping me? They start questioning. And then they go into what I would call the dark night of the soul, where it can be an internal existential crisis or another form of something that happens in the external. And it's like their whole life is transformed. They've completely shifted out of the place of who they were before their awakening and ascension process began. And they don't know who they are. They don't know what's up or down. It feels like they're just floating in darkness and there's no direction. And it's ego death, right? It's a letting go, it's a purging, it's an initiation. And all the things that we're attached to have to fall away. And in the dark night of the soul, this can last for a couple of hours. This can last for months and months. It can last for years. I've seen people stay in this part of the process for a very long time. I myself have been in the dark night for, oh gosh, 3 or 4 years at a time, right? But it's not like I stay there and that's the only thing that I am experiencing. It's like you were saying, right? We feel that place and then we get these moments of, okay, I can breathe again. Oh yeah, there's something over here. Oh yeah, there's a reason that I'm doing this, but I don't know what it is. And right, that back and forth. So I want people to understand that as you're moving through these phases, as if it's a pie chart. Again, it's not step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. It's a loop of all the steps contained within each step. Okay. So within each step, you've got an awakening, an ascension, and a joy, and then a drop, and then a crazy, like, what's happening? And then after your dark night, and within it, once you surrender to what is, that's the key. Surrender to what is. Let go of what you think it needs to be or why it's not the way you thought it should have been. You just surrender to what is. You surrender to the not knowing. In that moment, over a period of time, some awareness starts to come through. Some light starts to filter through into that darkness. Synchronicities start to happen. Maybe you get reconnected to some of those intuitive abilities that seem to be shut down for a while after you spent all this time waking them up. And then you start to have more of a rebirth process. And you're a completely different person and at a different level of consciousness than at the beginning. And then you have that rebirth and you find your feet again and you're more hopefully in a more balanced place, more discerning of what's right for you and not right for you, and have done some deep inner healing work. And then you start again. And then you do it again and again and again.
For
That's
each of
my
those
framework.
layers. Yes, exactly. For each of those layers, you have that you have that awareness and that understanding that comes through with each of those. Yes, the ego death, where you feel like you're going and taking those steps backwards. And then what I've come to notice in going through layer after layer after layer, repeating this process over and over again for quite a few years now, quite a few more to go. But yes, I've noticed, I really like patterns. As I've noticed as you go through and
Mm.
you start to kind of anchor yourself after you've had that dark night of soul where you're like, I know nothing. I know
Hmm.
nothing at all. What is all this? Why am I here? Where are we going from here? It's almost like, that's you take your pendulum and you pull it all the way back, and then you're starting to come back to that center, and then you start remembering, oh yes, here I am. This is who I am. This is the expanded awareness that I've gained from going so far one direction and so far the other. And then as you come back to that center, grounding yourself and balancing yourself. But it's interesting. It's almost like a zipper unraveling. Every time it goes the one notch forward on that, linear process that's not linear, that each time you have a new version of yourself that comes out of that cocoon. And each time you go into that goo of being a caterpillar where you thought you knew what your world was and you thought you knew how you ate plants and all, these things. And then you all of a sudden are making the shell around yourself. And then everything disappears and you're like, well, I am nothing. There's nothing to me. What is everything? Where you question everything. And then you come back and all of a sudden form starts to take place. And you start to realize, okay, it's getting cramped in here and you're ready to move forward. And then your shell cracks open. And all of a sudden you are totally different. You've gotten one step forward as you've all of a sudden developed these wings. But the thing about this ascension process is it's not just you do this once. It's over and over and over again. And each time you become a better version of yourself, a more aware, a more present version, ready to take on. And that's letting go of one more layer. And people think when they first start that awakening process that like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I'm going to do this. And then they start, and that's going towards that high. And then they are like, oh wait, this is work. I have to actually face these things.
Yeah.
And then you
Mm.
feel that. And then you come back slowly to that center where you realize I know nothing at all
Mhm. Yeah.
except for this sense of awareness. And then you're slowly back and forth weaving this process for yourself and understanding the new versions of who you are and who you've become. And it's so funny because I look back on things that I've done a couple months ago, or I can't even go back a couple years, but a couple months ago, and I'm like, wow, I was such a baby. I knew absolutely nothing. And this was 3 months ago. Okay, we'll be honest, a month ago. Like my whole life was totally different a month ago. And just going through and allowing that pendulum to swing. And the more you allow yourself on this process and surrender yourself to what life's creating for you, the faster that pendulum swings until one day the ultimate goal is to do that with a single thought. And that's that true place that you're trying to go to. But that means that you have to allow and you have to trust that there is a higher power within you. That's your spark of creator that's guiding you in this way, that is holding you and telling you and whispering in your ear, it's okay. It's all okay. Just allow.
I love your metaphor of the butterfly, the caterpillar and the butterfly, because that's exactly what it is. And I have to tell myself and even the people that I work with a lot that we're in the goo phase, right? Like everybody at my center knows the goo phase. And they're so funny. They're like, oh, Jeanette, the goo phase. I'm like, yep, enjoy.
No one
I'm
likes
like,
the goo
just
phase.
just remember, you know that you have wings. You have wings. They're just not formed yet, right? Or when they're feeling that discomfort, right? They're out of the goo phase and they're feeling the tightness of the cocoon. They're like, I'm ready for something else, man. I'm ready to bust out. And they get frustrated because they're like, why isn't it here yet? Why can't I just open? But it's like, well, I remember this from, I think it was first grade. In first grade, we had this science experiment or whatever they do with little kids. But I remember everybody had a monarch butterfly, like the caterpillar, and then we were supposed to watch it become the monarch butterfly. And then at the end, we had the jar, and then we let them all out of the jars, and they flew away, and it was so beautiful. And some of the butterflies didn't make it, right? Some died. And I remember there was a couple of the kids, because remember, this is like 6 and 7-year-olds, right? They want to see the butterfly. They see the cocoon shaking. They see this little insect trying to get out of this hard shell. And some of the kids tried to help the butterfly get out. And those butterflies died. I remember that like vividly seared into my mind. And the teacher had said to us, you can't help them because they have to get strong, right? They have to be strong enough. And getting out of the cocoon is their way of building strength and getting the circulation flowing in their wings and being able to have the ability to actually fly. So if you get out of the cocoon too soon, or you haven't done the work of getting out of it yourself, you ain't going to make it to that next level. Right. So I remember that when things get uncomfortable and I get frustrated, it's like, oh, I'm building strength. I'm building my spiritual resiliency. Right. Like going to the gym. You can't go to the gym one time and think your bicep's going to be massive. You have to go lots and build the bicep. And then if you stop going, the muscle gets small again. But here's the thing, you have muscle memory. And you know that you've done it once, so you can do it again. But it's the same with this evolving consciousness. We have to build spiritual resiliency. We have to build an awareness of ourselves that no matter how hard it gets, we can do it because we've done it before. And then over time, like you said, those thoughts, right? We might hit that dark night for a moment, for one thought, or maybe an afternoon, instead of years and years of feeling like we're getting drugged across the hot coals because we're just not knowing how to get out of it. Or we're judging it. We're judging it as something bad. So we want to get out of it, right? That's going to keep us there longer than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's so fascinating because we all go through it in different ways, like you were saying, but it's also unique. So I'm curious, what are some of your experiences that you would like to share about this ascension process for you? Because I know you're in the middle of it. I'm in the middle of it. I don't think there is a destination, right? Even when I die, I'm still going to be evolving as a soul. But
Mm-hmm.
what has the ascension process been like for you? Or like, is there a story that you can share with us?
For years, I was a doula, so I base a lot of things off of this process of birth and renewal
Yeah, that's
and
perfect.
and life. And I'm a mother too, so I've gone through
Mm-hmm.
this my personally as well. But I remember I heard a story that everyone's probably heard it too, but it's so, so relevant. And you can look at it in lots of different ways. There's so many different versions, but the idea that before you're born, you're feeling comfortable, you're in this womb, everything's great, it's watery, it's warm, you hear this beautiful heartbeat that's always there and it's always the same. And, you're feeling the emotions that your mom has. And, you just know that you're safe and it's okay. So why would you want more? But then at some point, it starts to get cramped, it starts to get tight. And, you're figuring out, oh, what are arms? What are legs? You have these things. And then it's more snug, and you're realizing, okay, well, some part of you is telling you, you have to leave this. And you're like, no, I love this. This is home because it has been home and it is always home. but realizing that there's something else and that there's something more. And then you go through however your birth process looks and you realize, how could I have ever not left that place? Because while that was home, this is so much more. And for me, taking that experience and that idea of what does it mean to go through that birthing process, um, you know, that's one perspective from a baby, but then you go through um, the idea of giving birth, you have these contractions and they're painful and they're uncomfortable. Let's be real, no one likes them. Um, Unless you're someone I've never met, but that's okay. It is a miraculous process, but in the moment when you're experiencing them, I just remember there's this amazing concept of birth amnesia. So once you have a
Mm.
baby and you see the baby, you're like, oh, that never happened. I forgot. And you're like, yeah, let's have another one. That happened for me a few times.
Mm.
But then when you feel that first contraction when you're having another baby and you're going through it again and you're like, oh yeah, I didn't like this. But it's like, well, it's too late. I signed up for this. I agreed to go through this, so I have to experience this. And realizing, okay, I did it to myself. I agreed. I want this baby. I grew this baby. I did all this. So life isn't happening to me. It's like it's happening because I asked for it.
It's happening through you.
It is happening
Wow.
through me.
Yeah.
And once you realize, okay, we're gonna do this. The end result, however long it's gonna take, whatever way this plays out, I'm just gonna allow. Not without, some uncomfortableness in the process. That's okay because that's life. To take that and allow that uncomfortableness and allow those contractions and allow yourself to move through it. And then you get to this not so fun part, which is called transition, when you're like, I can't do this anymore. I just can't. I'm at my limit. You either say, okay, give me drugs. You say, I need a C-section. You say, just do this out of it. Whatever option, it doesn't matter what you choose. It's customized for you because you hit your personal limit and you say, this is too much. And it's funny because you want to stop there. And I remember thinking about this, like, I cannot just check out and say, I'm done because, there's like a baby attached. Has to. There's only one outcome and the baby has to come out.
Yeah.
Which is, that's what you want. You want the baby at
Mm.
the end, which
Yeah.
is, re if remembering in that process though that all this pain and all this discomfort, all this not wanting to go through it, you are showing up. You are doing the work. You are experiencing the process just as you are meant to experience it. Even experiencing that last few minutes of having that like ring of fire that I'm sure quite a few women know exactly how that feels. And then to find out that there's so much more afterwards. Because the minute you see your baby, you're like, oh yeah, this is what it was for. And that's when you forget. You
Mm.
forget about how hard it was in that process because you realize that it was the phrase that I was told as a doula is it's pain with a purpose.
Yeah.
But isn't that life?
Yes.
That you're
That's all of it.
experiencing, yes, you're
Mm.
experiencing this process. You can call it pain, you can call it contractions, you can call it the ascension process, but there is a purpose. There's a greater idea behind it that you're letting go of the old versions of yourself. You are facing who you are, the things you've done, the things you've thought, the beliefs that you've held on to, and you're moving forward and you're
Mm.
accepting yourself for what it is and you're accepting your experience because you can't escape it. The universe gives you little teeny versions of it at first, and you can face it if you want to in that moment, or you can just ignore it. That's what most people do. Until eventually, whatever's coming up for you gets so big and so in your face, you literally can't see anything else. And you're like, fine, I'll deal with it. I'm sure nobody relates to that. I certainly don't
Oh,
ever,
not at
ever do
all.
that.
I always listen to spirit.
Oh, yes, on the first try. That's so funny. Me too.
Mm.
But then, once you get through it, you're like, of course, of course. It was exactly this way, scripted so perfectly for me, exactly the way I needed to experience it. And that's when, both of those are going that super high and that super low and expanding into that moment of then you're like, yes, I did this. And that's what evolves you to that next point. How many ever points there are doesn't matter. That's not the whole goal of getting to the end, of to getting to the finish line. Because again, just like you said, I don't think there is one. Or if there is, I'm not sure many people have gotten there. So whatever. How about just get to the next one? And that's
It,
that idea, just move forward and allow
yeah,
more and become more.
I love that so much. It brings to question in my mind as I'm listening and relating to all of it. A lot of times when we're in that place of transformation, we don't know what the purpose is. And as a human being, it's like we're hardwired to have a path, have a purpose. I've got to do something. I've got to have a mission, right? What's my mission? And I've really been sitting with that energy and looking at it within myself and then also in life. And I have this awareness within myself that it just doesn't matter. And the purpose is to simply live life. And I actually get to choose what my purpose is. I get to choose that expression. And for so long, and I'm still wrestling with this belief system, this false belief system in my system. System in my system. It's like the Russian dolls, inside, the inside, the inside, the inside, right? Um, Wrestling with this idea that I believe there's a framework, that there's a higher consciousness of me. I believe that I am part of creation, creating itself, learning about itself, observing itself. I believe that I'm a divinely human being. And I'm also this infinite, multidimensional being. And to even try to conceive what that consciousness really is would just melt my mind. So it doesn't matter right now because that's not the experience I'm having. And that part of me that thinks that there's this plan that's so much greater than anything my human self could create. There's this belief system where I realized that I'm always in this place of, what if I do it wrong? What if there's something even better? What if I'm missing out? What if I'm not on my highest and best path, even though I literally set that intention every day? So you would think that I would just let it go, right? Since some days I do. But I'm getting deeper into this awareness that the purpose is to live. The mission is how I choose to live. The purpose is to love. The mission is how do I choose to love? And I'm not in kindergarten anymore. I don't need the training wheels telling me go left, go right, go to that store, talk to that person, do that thing, right? Which a lot of us, that's what we need. That's where we're at. And that's okay. Now I'm in this space of, oh, I am literally manifesting every single part of my life. Oh, shit. I am
It's really humbling.
responsible. Yes, I am actually fully responsible for every single thought and action and feeling. And yes, there is a plan. That's the plan to remind me that I am a master creator of my life. instead of giving it up to some savior in the sky that's going to come down and make everything better and get rid of all the demons and all the gremlins in my head. Not to be condescending, but that's how I feel right now. It's this idea of claim your power, claim who you are, be unapologetic in that, and at the same time, always be humble and willing to grow and to expand and express more of who you already are, but you've forgotten. So I've been, especially the last couple of weeks, I've been doing this tug of war with myself, that same old pattern, recognizing it and taking a step back and watching the pattern, watching the loop, watching how it moves through my system. Well, this person said this and this person did this. And what if they're right? And what if I'm wrong? What if they're seeing something in me that I'm not seeing? What if I need to dissect more of this about myself? What if I need to fix this thing about myself? What if I'm all these horrible things? But then when somebody says something nice or celebrates me, I'm like, oh no, that can't really be. That can't really be true. And I've been watching it, just watching it play out. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's not about taking on this other thing that may or may not be true. It's about reclaiming the power that I have to choose whether it's true or not.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's my little thought spiral that I've been in for a while. And one of my patterns that I've noticed in my ascension process. It's one of those things. Who am I? What do I want to be? What do I want to create? And I'm not a one-man island. So every single interaction with another person, another situation, a location, right? Different locations on the planet have different kinds of energy, different histories. There's so much to that. We are literally interacting with ourselves and each other and reflections and mirrors all the time. All the time.
And in
And
that also realizing that every other person is experiencing the same concepts.
right?
They are
Yes.
going through their version of the ascension
Yes.
process and they're interfacing with how
Mm-hmm.
they show up in the world and how
Yes.
once you
It
start realizing that, it's so freaking humbling because you're like, nobody's
mm-hmm.
got it figured out.
No.
Nobody knows.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the book. This tells you what to
Yep.
do. Here's the steps. Because they're all different for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone is just making it up as they go and doing
Mm-hmm.
their best with whatever they've got, whatever the gremlins they have in their own selves and the beliefs they have to work through. And going through that process, for me, of course, it's still a work in progress, but as that 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 thought process just sinks in further and further of that understanding, okay, well, they're going through that. That person is definitely going through something. It helps to have that level of compassion for others. But you always have, like the flight attendant says, put the mask on yourself first. You can't help others if you don't first take care of yourself. So you first take care of yourself with the understanding that everyone's doing that. Everyone is doing their best to first help themselves heal, help themselves be more. Because I do also feel okay, well, it's so easy um, to feel those criticisms within yourself and, oh, this isn't good enough. This isn't right. This, I could have done that better. But then as soon as, yes, you hear someone say, oh, that was really amazing. You're like, what? I don't think so. And realizing that, okay, well, if I'm going to criticize myself that much, then I also have to be willing to take the good. And I heard this phrase recently that I'm kind of playing with because it kind of hit home. So you have to show, I know it's really humbling. You have to show up for yourself as much as you show
Mm-hmm.
up for others.
Yeah.
That idea of like, if someone is, if you're going to help others so much, you also have to be willing to either receive that in return, because that's that allowing, because you have to allow your growth and accept yourself as much as you accept the imperfection that everyone else is. don't make excuses, oh, they can't do this or they're not ready for this or whatever. If you're then saying, I'm not perfect, I should be so much better. You don't talk to others that way, at least most people don't. Maybe you do, whatever. Again, wherever you're at. But the idea that if you're going to hold someone yourself to a higher standard, but you give everybody the grace to be imperfect, that's an imbalance. That's waiting for you to unravel that and allow yourself to heal and to move forward from that. However, that looks like it plays out for you. Whatever's showing up for you, those are the lessons that are the next step on that process of ascension. However, spiral, straight line, curvy, kindy, curly thing, whatever it is for you. And it's all okay because we're all doing it.
Yeah, it's really interesting trying to find the neutral point in all of that, because I'm the kind of person where I can dissect something in a billion different ways, and I can have compassion for every single perspective, my own and others. Like, I can see where others are coming from, I can see where I'm coming from. And so I get into some really interesting conversations, and I even activate people sometimes around this, where I don't believe in right or wrong, good or bad, black and white kinds of constructs in thinking, because I really can have compassion for where everyone is sitting. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to align or be in resonance with certain things, certain behaviors, or certain people or their actions, right? Me allowing that to exist without judgment doesn't mean that I'm saying that it's okay if somebody's going around doing horrible things or saying horrible things, but I can allow it to exist without feeling the need to shut it down, make it wrong, make it right. Right. I don't have this. I'm very aware of like this self-righteousness that comes up in people, and or this, maybe it's like a sense of justice, right? A sense of right and wrong. And I just don't have that when I turn my lens to the external. I have it when I look at myself. I look at myself like, this is right for me, or this is not right for me. But I'm very aware of shoving my own beliefs and ideas and ideologies down someone else's throat, because I know what that feels like. It's suffocating when somebody cannot express who they truly are in the world because it makes someone else uncomfortable, or it is the counter opposite to what someone else is, and that other person can't allow the other to exist. I mean, look at what's happened in our histories, in the humanity that we are in this current moment, in governments, in politics, in society, in the way that we fight each other and we fight ourselves, because we simply cannot allow something different from ourselves to exist. Why? Why? I can't wrap my mind around that. I feel that our differences, our uniqueness makes it so beautiful. It's like adding some spice to the soup of life, right? It would be so boring if it was just vegetable broth and nothing else, right? Or just the only flavor of ice cream is vanilla. Like, that'd be so boring. I think I've used that metaphor many times. But so I'm in this place in my own expansion of consciousness where I need to be discerning of who am I truly, and who do I want to be, while learning from the mirrors and the reflections that are showing up outside of me, because there's treasure in that, right? People and situations are going to bring things into my awareness that I didn't know I was putting out there. And at the same time, recognizing that maybe what's being perceived isn't what I'm putting out there, but it's their own mirrored projection. So it's like, how do we navigate that? I feel like my brain becomes scrambled eggs sometimes, because I'm in this back and forth, push and pull, tug of war. What's truth? What's not truth? Who am I? Who am I really? Who do others think I am? Blah, 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 blah. Right. And every time I go into that loop, It's like, okay, just go deeper into truth. The only truth, for me at least, the only truth is love. Everything else is asking for love. Everything else is saying, please bring love here to this place that has forgotten love. Because when I anchor to what love is, love for me is presence. Love is just allowing the creation to be what the creation is. And it doesn't take from me, it doesn't give to me, it just is. There's no story, there's no expectation, there's no judgment. It's beyond all of that. That's just human mind fuckery. But love, 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 love. And so I always find myself coming back to that. Like put my hand over my heart, take a couple deep breaths. Okay, where's love? Oh, it's in me. What is love? What is love? I don't know. Sometimes I don't know. But I know that it feels like still and calm. And it is fierce. It's like the tidal wave that you know is coming and you can't outrun it and you're going to drown. And it's okay. It's this presence that is so massive. The only thing you can feel is peace. There can be no terror because it's absolutely impossible to run. There is nowhere else to go. It's already here. It's already inside of me. So all I have to do is surrender. Stop fighting it. Stop thinking about it. And just stop thinking that I have to do anything or be anything other than that presence, because that presence is truth. So I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but that's part of the process that I have. And I don't know, it's so beautiful. And it's fascinating. Like I'll have these conversations with my husband and he's like, why are you doing this again? Why are we talking about this again? You know, why are you questioning all these things? Why can't we just love each other? Like, what's your deal? Right. And I'm like, no, babe, I'm not questioning the relationship. I'm not questioning all these things in the external. I'm questioning me. I'm questioning my relationship with me. I'm questioning my belief system because something outside of me triggered it. And he has a hard time like shifting into that internal compass. This part of it is the masculine energy is usually looking outside of themselves, right? They're like the arrow. I'm going to go that way. I'm going to do that thing, right? And the feminine energy is more like holding the all. There is no one single direction. We can go 50 million directions and we'll still get to Rome, right? Doesn't matter. So I was literally having this conversation with him a couple of days ago about just like, I want to go deeper. I want to go deeper into myself. And I want to be free of these voices that are telling me there's something wrong. And if there is something wrong or something that's out of resonance or needs to be brought back into balance, that's what the voices are showing me. They're not showing me the thing that I have to go do or blame. They're showing me the thought that needs loving awareness. The pattern itself is the words that are being brought through in the loop. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, that's the whole process of ascension, is
Yeah.
that going through and feeling into yourself and getting that next layer of who you are. And it's funny, I too not too long ago had a conversation with my husband and he's like, "Why do you like doing the work?" You know, the going through this difficult
Right?
experience and talking through it and
Why are you always
having
processing? Because I am. It's fun. I like it.
and he's like, "I'll do the work, but sometimes." And then he's like, "But you just like doing it all the time." And it's like, no, 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 I don't like doing it. I just know that if I don't do it when it's little, it's going to show up 10 times more in my face and I'll have no choice because I know that this is the work that I'm meant to do to move forward. I mean, everyone is. It's not exclusive. We're all doing the work. We just maybe would call it something different. Maybe we're having life happen or whatever. But going through, and it's like, if I can do it when it's little still, if I can face the little fears and the understandings and then question my own awareness of how I'm showing up for things when it's small, then I don't have to have the major existential crisis every time. Here and there, but not every time. And for me, that's beautiful because the
Yeah.
more that instead of having that pendulum swing so far in either direction, the more you see it and you can fine tune it so that eventually you get to the point where it only tweaks back and forth a little bit and you can process those with just experiencing thought instead of your whole life falls apart. And
Yes,
then
that
you
was
have
the
to
point.
remake yourself. Yes.
Yes. That was the point I was trying to make. It's like I've been through some really intense experiences that had to happen. They had to because I needed to get to my next level and I wasn't getting it with the little tiny pokes and the little tiny prods, right? And so I had to have some really big things happen. And now it's the same. It's like, oh, ooh, I'm feeling this. Ooh, what is this? And I get curious about it. I don't get frustrated that it's showing up again. I don't have the desire to run away from myself. Sometimes I do have the desire to run away. I do have that. And so I recognize that. But it's not to run away from the pain. It's because I have this belief that perhaps there's something else that's better than where I am. And the pain is reminding me, well, maybe you shouldn't be where you are. Maybe you should be over there. And that is a false belief.
Hmm.
And that's been really interesting for me to have an awareness around that pattern. And I'm so glad it's coming in those little thoughts, in those little nudges, instead of, okay, now you're going to, whatever. I don't need to go into it.
You don't need to play out the huge story and have the story
Yes.
show up and affect countless
Every
lives.
area of your life and everyone you're
Every
connected
area of
to.
your life, yes, you
Yeah.
can have it just be thoughts.
Yes.
And that's all, that's the beauty of that process as you practice and you hone your abilities and you hone how you have shown up for yourself, is that you get that opportunity to be more. And
Mm-hmm.
then life happens in this whole process the way that it's meant to lay out and happen for you. And it starts to speed up and it starts to go faster as you increase your frequency. And that's where you have that ability is to feel it with a thought and to say, I don't like that thought. Here, I'm going to feel into it more instead of saying, oh, I don't want it. You're saying, all right, I'm going to feel into it. And then you're going to move through and embody that emotion and the things that are showing up and not judge them and allow them to come through you. And then you can say, thank you and let go of that. And that's that honing process because then you can stay in your center while still going through that experience so that you can move forward to this next notch of whatever life is. Because the whole purpose of life isn't to get to the finish line, it is just to have the journey and experience the journey.
Yeah. It's like I have this metaphor in my mind of like we're little CIA agents running around gathering intel for creator, right? Like creator is this infinite consciousness and doesn't have fingers and toes and hair and emotions. So we choose as sparks of this divine consciousness. It is us. We are it, right? There's no separation. But we go into this place of individualized experience so that everything I touch, everything I feel, everything that I experience gets woven into this tapestry of experience. So creation is experiencing itself through my lens. And that's unique. And it's like, wow, that's really cool. So I'm going to gather some intel, right? I'm going to go jump in that ocean naked in the moonlight. I'm going to go eat that piece of chocolate cake. I'm going to let myself cry until snot is just oozing from my body because creation doesn't have a body. What does that feel like? Right? And it's hard because we're having this awareness. It's hard sometimes because you want to just say, this is good, this is bad. And I can't. It's not there. I just love it all. It hurts so good, right? I just love it. And I know there's moments when I don't love it, but um that's one of my lessons, I guess. Can you love this? Can you love the things you hate? So, thank you so much for having this conversation about ascension and awakening and just sharing your perspective. I love it. Is there anything else you would like to add before we wrap up?
Just to remember that wherever you're at is totally perfect. It is scripted for you. It is scripted by you. It is scripted through you just to move forward on this path. And that everything you're experiencing is exactly right for you. And to just sit and be with it.
Yeah, like it won't feel like you're moving forward, right? It's okay to not move forward. Just wanted to add that because sometimes we get in that place of like, oh man, I should be doing more. And it's just about being with whatever is. And when you surrender to the is, then it's like an opening happens to the possibility of what more can be added to the what is.
Always remembering that everything is exactly as it is meant to be. And all is well.
Yeah, so good. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love these
Thank you.
conversations. I'm
And
excited for next time. I don't know what we're gonna do, but
mhm,
thank you
that's
so
the
much
beauty
for
of it.
being here.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.